Hello, and welcome to the latest edition of From the Horse's Mouth podcast. I'm Phil Fersht, your host. And today joining me is a gentleman called Richard Seroter, who's a chief evangelist at Google Cloud. Welcome, Richard. Great to have you.
Yeah, Phil, thank you for finally inviting me on or putting up with my request to join you someday for a chat like this. This is great.
Terrific. Yeah, no, terrific. And now we got you on we're kicking off 2026. What's going on at Google? You guys have really come to the fore last year. You've sort of been the sort of dark horse in the world of sort of AI platforms and really challenging at the peak of the market. So what's going to happen in 2026 for Google that we should get excited about?
That's a big question. I mean, last year and the years before, I think we finally captured some of the AI mindshare that we've been building up toward. The work that's been happening at Google for decades has been expansive, but then all of a sudden, I think we really turned it on last year in an interesting way, not just to be the most interesting AI choice for individual builders, but somehow I think we became a safe enterprise choice for this, which is great, not only because of the models and the standout models and the breadth of multimodality. I mean, how many of us were having fun with Nano Banana and things, but then also doing deep research or doing things with fine tuning with open models with Gemma. So you're seeing a maturity of models, but then some of the differentiators is, look, TPUs had a moment last year. Whereas all of a sudden went from like, that's a cute thing that Google does to like, my goodness, this is a very disruptive thing in the infrastructure space. It's very powerful for a lot of companies who are looking for different choices. And so you were seeing these stacks layer on Gemini Enterprise, what was Agent Space, but Gemini Enterprise, like, wow, how do we take enterprise knowledge and make this stuff more useful too? It's not just about the models, it's about the shapes of things around them that make them useful. And how do we think about developer tools? You saw us get into Gemini CLI and developer tools and anti-gravity and tools like that. So I think what you're going to see from us this year is, I think for most of us, I don't know if all of us in this technology space are going to ship a million new things as much as connect the existing million things better. So, I mean, last couple of years, right? There's a different spec every day. There's a different framework or tool or product or whatever. And that was awesome. It's also overwhelming. I don't know if we need a billion more. Or if now we get through, how do we use all this stuff correctly, get the outcomes that people want to actually get from them? Can we settle for a second so that we can actually, figure out good practices and maybe make some bets or things like that? So I'm expecting this will be a year of outcomes and integrations, as well as the usual run of innovation, but I'm kind of excited for the other stuff.
So Google in particular, I'm obviously a fan. I ran HFS on Google for a long time before it became fashionable. The conversation was Google was always sort of trying to get into the enterprise space, out of the consumer space, and it always felt like an uphill battle. But with the onset of LLMs, the proliferation of OpenAI and all that stuff, it feels like the market's actually come to you guys now versus the other way around with your dominance in search and the natural evolution. Everyone's already using it. So it's easy to convert existing customers versus trying to get new customers, right?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, personally, I'd rather be chased than chasing everyone else. So I'd like it when customers are coming to us, can we please chat, versus me knocking on the door going, can you give us 5 minutes? So that has changed. I think folks are realizing it's not wise to have an AI strategy without at least talking to us, because even if you're not using our tech, what are we thinking about? Hey, Google DeepMind is what a premier organization for AI research and work, the Google research. And so frankly, the number one talk I've been doing for customers over the last 6 months has been, how has Google incorporated AI in their workflows? What can we learn from you and your practices? It's not just the tools, but what are you learning with your tens of thousands of engineers? What's working? What's not? What kind of patterns are you figuring out? And so I think folks are realizing it's not even just about the what you do, it's about how you do it. And that we're somewhat unique in that space. As you mentioned, look, some of our competitors have had good footprints in enterprise for years. And so cloud was an upsell. AI was an upsell. Google's a bit more of a disruptor. Yes, they were using search or they were using ads or using tons of parts of Google. But in the enterprise data center and the enterprise team, wasn't a ton of Google stuff there 10 years ago. And so we had to come in as a net new disruptor in some cases going, look, this is just better than what you've been doing and better than it's worth the migration cost. And I don't know if that resonated as much into the last 3-4 years as folks realize that there's real separation on the AI front that's worth the cost of doing a migration project.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. And so what's really changed in the last couple of years because, obviously ChatGPT opened everyone's new horizons on building a relationship with your computer that you never had before, to be honest. I was hearing the other day about if OpenAI cut off your access to ChatGPT, would you pay 3-4 times as much as you were to get back on there? Most people would. People are actually, this is really ingrained in people's lives now. But how has it changed Google from fairly routine search functionality to full singing and dancing LLM engagement capability? How has it changed you guys?
Yeah, I mean, it's changed this, obviously the service mix, as you said. I mean, post ChatGPT, as Google really got into the first versions of things like Bard and Gemini and other ways of how do I interact differently? I think our own search teams have talked about how much more people are typing into the search bar. You and I, of course, grew up on search as like, what are the keywords? How do I make this machine give me back what I want? Now I'm writing sentences. I might even included punctuation in a Google query today. I didn't feel good about it, but I was actually writing a sentence to ask for some help. So I think you're seeing that first off, the types of things that are being asked. I'm looking for not just an answer, but a synthesis of answers, which I get from AI overviews in Google Search or Google AI mode or the Gemini Deep Research. And so it's changing us and what sort of things are we providing back? It's not just question answer. It's analysis in some way. It's some synthesis of information. And I think that's pretty cool. And it's changed then the product mix of then where do people want that in a non-clunky way? I think we've all seen AI can get stuffed into experiences and feel like it's doing more work than it's actually helping me at all. So how does it fit into Gmail in a good way? I think we've done some interesting stuff here. How does it fit in Workspace where it's there, but it's not obnoxious? How does it get into search or dev tools or others? I think even in cloud environments, I think AI can be another cloud experience like a CLI or an API or a UI. How does AI become a cloud experience in a helpful way? So I think what you're seeing from Google is we're rethinking some of the surfaces, and you've seen that change over these last year or two, is what are the right surfaces for interaction? And, look, Google's mission, we're trying to organize the world's information and make it useful. I think this is us. Like, this is exactly what this company is built to do. And we have a pretty good eye for taste in UI and experience where we don't have to make this feel clunky. This can feel like a natural part of how I use my phone, how I use my computer, how I use my hosted cloud service. So we're not going to get them all right, but I think we're getting more right than we're getting wrong.
Yeah, I think the word natural really rings home for me here. It's like, if you think back even just a year, you go into Google and be very much a functional thing. I'm going to ask my computer a question and it's going to give me an answer. And it's going to be maybe a fairly binary answer, but it'll probably be pretty much what I'm looking for. OpenAI came in with a different concept of you're going to basically build a model that's going to start to know you and know your habits. And it became much more like, I'm not actually talking to a computer anymore. I'm talking to a bot. I'm talking to something actually starting to know my mannerisms. What was quite funny last night was my wife actually, her ChatGPT knows me. It was bizarre. I go, it knows me? He goes, yeah, it's all about you. Just said, can I go onto your ChatGPT and start chatting to it as Phil? And she said, yeah, give it a go. So I think what they've done is they've done the first mover thing, right? So I wrote about this the other day about first mover advantage in the market. Someone makes the first move, but often the winner is the one who lets somebody else do the research, does the follow through, and then builds something bigger than that came before. Do you think Google has really got that sort of second mover advantage now?
Are we ever first? Like, we're the 20-something search engine, Gmail came later, Workspace came later, Google Cloud wasn't the first cloud, Android came after iPhone. And I don't know if that's intentional. I think sometimes you do want to see what is the market. And yeah, sometimes you want to be blazing a trail, and that's amazing. And that first mover advantage is legit. I don't know how many first movers have held on to it 10 years later. In most sectors, some have, of course. But I think we do like to learn not only from our own data, but what do people actually want to do? And can we do a better version than what's always kind of a first roughish idea of like, hey, that's really awesome. But hey, are we missing this? Or where is there utility here? And so I think we're seeing with the Gemini app, which is, it changes all the time. But like one of the number one apps in the App Store now, who in the world would have predicted that even 12 months ago? And so this is now becoming something that people are preferring after they've seen some first versions of other things, which are awesome. But now it's like, hey, well, this really connects really nicely to my Google world, right? We just lit up this week. I know people will watch this at different times, but the idea of personalization in the Gemini app, where again, you are getting a quasi-digital twin that understands what's in your inbox and your workspace and your search and other things. And hey, when did I get my last haircut? That was 3 weeks ago. Do you want me to book it again? Yeah, that's kind of helpful. Like, I don't want to click through 20 days of my calendar to figure out where I put the haircut appointment. So there is something there where sometimes watching to see what you need is helpful to actually build a better second version. I think we've done that with cloud. I think we've built a better cloud than the first versions. I think we've done that with a number of cases. But you pay a cost because now you have to re-educate the market on why they should move from their first thing to the next thing. And that's not a trivial thing to do.
Yeah, especially if it's just so personal. So, I mean, if you think about it, you've got like, I think we're getting into 4 different sort of leading LLMs. You've got OpenAI with a lot of B2C. You've got Perplexity, a bit more niche for research, Claude Anthropic for B2B and some coding and that sort of stuff. And now Google, which is almost like the Googleization of LLMs. How's Google ultimately going to be perceived in this space? Do you think people are just going to start to realize, I just might as well move everything onto one platform, which really understands me? In fact, Google has 20 years history of me for my Gmail. Or do you think people are going to start to have multiple LLMs now and sort of start working across the different ones and building threads between them? How do you think this evolves?
I mean, I guess all that matters is going to be utility. Is it useful? I don't think we're in a space where anyone's going to calcify on one thing purely out of convenience, because we're seeing that with dev tools, right? If you and I talked 3 years ago, gosh, IDEs were a boring space. There's like 3 vendors that mattered. No one was ever going to change the development environment tool space. Cursor pops up, Windsurf's here. All these different tools, Claude Code comes out, all these, like, my goodness, that is very vibrant. And so you see developers, me, myself, I have 3 IDEs on my machine. I had like 1 for 15 years. What am I doing now? But you're seeing people say, what is the most useful thing to try right now? There's a barrier to entry that's near zero for most of these sorts of AI products. And so just inertia, I don't know if is enough. We have to continue to aim for excellence, aim to be the best experience. Do I assume just because you use Google search, you'll use our AI? Absolutely not. There's a lot of ways to get this functionality. So I think you're seeing, of course, there will be things out of convenience. My Android Pixel phone, yeah, look, a bunch of stuff's baked in. It works great. I have no incentive to try something else because it does exactly what I need. I'm good. But I think in a lot of spaces, it's more dynamic than that. As we look at, again, if I'm a builder tools, super fluid right now. I've got to constantly try to push and be excellent here, not just okay. And, oh, it connects to your Google stuff. I don't care. This other thing can kind of too be better. And so certain areas, it seems like you have to be pushing the excellence bar. Other cases, of course, convenience will matter. Look, you look at every company in the world who does SaaS, who's launching agents. They're hoping that proximity will be the reason you light up Salesforce agents or ServiceNow agents or this agent. Of course, it's right next to the platform. Same with Workspace, Office 365, whatever. But there's other areas where I don't care if it's right next to my preferred thing. It just has to be better. And I think both are playing out right now, which is pretty interesting. I like our spot in both. We're not taking either for granted.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And now you're supporting the iPhone, right? Siri, right? You're doing all the support for Siri. So how does that work? I mean, I always saw Android and iPhone as massively competing platforms. Are these now finally you're dropping down the gauntlet and starting to work together? I mean, what's going on here?
Yeah, that's not my partnership domain, but I think you're seeing there's very few scenarios where, I mean, look, even at reInvent, we announced the cross-cloud connect work with Amazon. You know, in some cases, it just makes better sense to not be dogmatic about it's our way or the highway. And so you see that with Anthropic, which we do things with. You see that with, heck, OpenAI, some partnership work. And you see, of course, that there's times with Microsoft or Amazon. Hey, we all do some open source work together, which is great. So even with Apple, Apple's a great partner at times. And yeah, of course, we compete in different areas. I think those Venn diagrams overlap in every dimension. And if we were being our way or the highway, we couldn't play with anybody. So I think it makes sense that we want to build the best possible platform and technology. And if someone else can take advantage of it, because either A, it speeds their time to market, or they don't want to spend the cost to try to be as good at that, which is hard in some areas, we all do the same thing. So I think you're actually seeing a pragmatism in tech that maybe didn't exist as much a few years ago, where it's much more,
Yeah.
I'm going to own every part of my supply chain. I'm going to own every piece of my ecosystem. And there's certain places you could do that, but that's super tough. And I would rather most of us be good at excellent at a handful of things than trying to be average at everything.
Yeah. But isn't this like convincing clients, whether it's a consumer client or a business client, to change? So however this has worked its way out over the last 30 years, I still have to use frickin' PowerPoint every day. Right. I would love to use something better than this horrible application, and so would most other people. It's the switching cost of the amount of inconveniences it's going to cause my life. I finally got off cable TV the last month. I'm on YouTube TV, actually.
There
It's brilliant. It was just so freaking seamless. It's like, can I get these channels? Yeah. And it was like, I can finally stop using that box. And to me, that was like a massive relief. And I thought, how do we get like that YouTube TV moment hitting other areas like enterprise office apps? That's a big one that needs shifting. And then you're getting into other bigger enterprise applications and cloud. How do we get to that inflection? Are we finding these inflection points easier to get to? Has AI made us more open to change and trying new things?
I read a book last year before, that for the most part, psychological research shows something has to be like 2.3, 2.6 times better for you to really switch. Like you wouldn't move houses because the one in another town has another 10 square feet. Like that's an insane move. Like that probably alone. It would have to be like, you know what, this fundamentally changes my lifestyle. It's close to stuff. I hate moving, but this is worth it. You and I probably aren't switching banks just because the other bank offers an extra 0.5% of interest on a savings account. Like, that's a pain in the neck. My whole life's tied into checks and banks. So enterprise IT, of course, will be the same. We can go in and pitch like Google Workspace is unbelievable. They're like, I completely hear you. I got 20 years of stuff in a Microsoft Word doc. Like that feels like a lot of work. And so your thing is amazing, but this thing's fine and moving stinks. That's totally normal behavior. And so while there's plenty of migration tools, we've got them for clouds, we've got them for your SharePoint, we've got them for whatever. Everybody offers migration tools. AI has made it easier. Those things are all true. This still has to come down to value. And to be honest with you, I think sometimes it has to come down to courage. And I'm not sure a lot of people are willing to make that bet in the enterprise because these are career defining choices if it goes wrong. And so we got to reduce risk. We talk about the features. I think enterprise vendors, including ourselves, sometimes don't have to be in the feature business. We have to be in the risk business. And I have to show you that you are not going to get fired by picking Google. Instead, you've probably just changed your entire career trajectory and given your company a 10-year new lease on life. You move for that. You do not move because we offer a cleaner way to shift a table in a doc versus Word, where if you breathe on it, the whole table shifts. It's not enough to move for. So can we reduce risk? Can we show you the risk is less? And then you get to light up all the fun stuff. But I think most of us all fear loss a lot more than we acquire gain.
A lot of it as well, I think, is moving into the cloud. You think about it. So I think the reason why the shift from cable TV to pure streaming platform TV is so beautiful is you're getting rid of that hardware box.
Yeah.
Like Verizon made sure you had that freaking box somewhere in your house, and you had to use their own. And then on top of that, it's way more expensive. Like there's the cost thing. It got to the point where it's almost like fatigue of the technology wanting to move into something that's much more cloud-driven and ubiquitous, which is really what I think drove that move on. And you think about it, it's the slickness and ease of moving things, which is where we're going.
I mean, convenience matters as much as there will always be tinkerers who want to build their own stuff or even run on-prem or run their own VPS server because cloud's expensive. I guess to me, my first question when anyone says anything is expensive, oh, Gemini's expensive for a bunch of calls. Compared to what? Like, what are we comparing this to? Are we comparing this to you creating this picture yourself and me generating it in 30 seconds for $1? I mean, I guess $1 is expensive, but that would have taken me 4 days to draw. This feels like my time is more valuable. Or is a cloud server more expensive than buying something from our friends at Dell or HP? I don't know. Maybe over a certain period of time. But what am I comparing it to in terms of TCO and overall cost and agility costs? And do I want to have hardware in a data center? And so I don't know if we I think we often find ourselves arguing against a straw man or a mythical, magical future where everything's amazing. And sometimes it's, what are you really comparing this thing to say it's better, cheaper, easier, or harder, more expensive, more complicated? Compared to what?
Yeah, but it's like when we're going through a technology evolution like we are with LLMs at the moment, people are much more open saying, you know what, this is so important. I don't mind spending $100 a month on
Yep.
3 different platforms. But that quickly changes. It's like everyone I talk to now is spending way too much on streaming media services. And people are just trying desperately to figure out how to cut this one down, that one down. Why do I need to pay for HBO Max just for that one show? Right, that sort of thing. So I think we're going to get to that point with
Absolutely.
AI and LLMs and cloud where people are thinking, I don't really need to have 4 different LLMs. I just want one that really works for me.
Yeah. I mean, when I put my analyst hat on, I'm terrible at this. But if I'm looking at selection process, what do people choose? We either take a product approach where we just say, I'm going to pick one thing and it's the best and I'm good. And that's usually for very mature spaces. And then we take a portfolio approach with something super emerging. Like, I'm just going to do a bit one of everything, get a sense for where it goes. And then sometimes we even take a platform approach going like, I want something I can bet on, but I'm also going to extend it all over the place. And I think sometimes we assume that you're just picking one of those. And I think especially in enterprise IT, you have some things that they're just awesomely boring and you should have 2 relational databases, no more. It's dumb to have 8 different types of relational databases. That is a very mature market. Pick 2. You're fine. Pick a product approach. LLMs and AI, portfolio approach probably. I should try a bunch of things and then I'm going to consolidate and compress it once I get my use cases figured out and I understand which vendors have staying power. And then maybe for some areas, especially with clouds, I pick a platform and say, yeah, look, I'm going to use you for most of my stuff, but I want to bring on a best of breed service for this or service for that. I think you're all of those at any point of the life cycle of something in IT, frankly, probably our personal lives. And we just get in trouble when we think we have to be one or the other at all times.
So what's the next phase for the tech industry? So we've got the hyperscalers at one end of the market, you guys, Amazon, Microsoft, etc. Then you've got the big tech services companies, your Accentures, IBMs, Cognizant, Infosys, these business. And then you got the apps firms like your Salesforce, ServiceNow, these types of platform companies coming into play. And then your traditional ERP businesses. Everyone's after each other's revenue. It's all converging. We call it services and software. How do you see this playing out?
Yeah, I've used your point of view elsewhere with attribution, of course. I think services as software is an interesting approach. I think services work is clearly going to have to evolve because I even wonder, again, I'm not a complete extremist yet that everyone is going to vibe code their SaaS platforms and I can just turn off all my products so that I can just build everything. I think there will be some of that happens because you'll look and go like, I am spending $80 a month for something that's a simple data experience that I could probably build in an hour. Maybe it is worth it to build that, minimize a code base, run it in a cloud platform and eliminate that cost. Now, again, that cost will live somewhere else. So you got to factor that in. But I think we're going to see even this year, even in enterprise, I'm talking to people who are still looking at what should I be building versus buying. That will be a different conversation this year because it has never been cheaper to build. Now, there's always, is it free as in beer or free as in puppies? And I think in some cases, some of this is free as in puppies. Like, yeah, build your thing. You got to maintain this thing. Like this thing's going to grow. It's going to have its own tech debt over time. How are you handling it? So the pendulum will swing too far back and forth this year, guaranteed, because it's just gotten so easy, even in enterprise, to vibe code some stuff or vibe engineer some stuff and go, projects that used to take us 6 months, we're doing in a week and a half. Do I need to keep buying certain things from vendors? Or am I just going to pick 2 or 3 core vendors? Yep, you know what? There's no way I'm replacing my ERP. I don't think I'm going to build my own CRM. Like there's a handful of core platforms I'm going to bet on. But I do wonder the bloodbath and the sort of situation for some of these other niche software products and SaaS products of they will all grow, I would imagine, because they can add value. But will they also see new competition from the build set who goes, I don't know if I need to buy a thing that does that thing. It's just so easy to build it. So I think a lot of this sector, builders are back in charge. That's not a buy economy to me as a whole. And so what does it mean when everyone can build? We're going to make some horrible mistakes because some people will build something that they should not build or run it as production, which they shouldn't. But we're going to have to learn that together, because at the same time, when the cost of code has gone to zero, the cost of generating code has gone to zero, you have to at least give a few things a shot. And I think we're going to do that a lot this year.
Yeah. I mean, at a company your size now, you're making much bigger waves in the enterprise with Gemini. Do you think you have to make a services play now in terms of, I mean, you look at the Palantir model of sending in senior level experts, sort of scalable model. Is that something you see Google Cloud having to go down?
Yeah. I mean, again, not my area to run professional services. We've been doing forward deployed sort of concepts like a lot of hyperscalers for a while, where you do have tiger teams, expert teams who go in and don't just make sure that you've bought something, but that you implement it well. I did this years ago at Pivotal, because when you bought Pivotal and Cloud Foundry, you weren't just buying a product, you're almost buying a lifestyle. And so you had to follow it up with training and enablement and help. Let's get your first product to prod. I think a lot of hyperscalers do that now. A lot of others do that. Is that a large scale professional services business? I don't think we've proven that that should be our competency. We like, depending on great, both regional SIs, global SIs, others, working on them to do this at scale. But we should be keeping a lot of stuff close to us, especially for first deploys, expert access. Use my own team. I run a number of teams. One of my developer relations teams will do at least probably about once a month. We'll go on site with a customer. We'll bring people in expertise in 4 or 5 different areas. And usually in that week, we'll take an idea that they have from 20% to 80% just by putting everyone co-located in a room. You can't buy that. Like, that's awesome. And I like us having that capability, because I don't want to play telephone with a vendor who's like, well, I heard this from the customer. That's great. And you need that at scale. But sometimes you just need that burst of quick innovation, a win, success, good patterns right from the horse's mouth.
So how do you manage at the C-suite level? So I can see you guys, you're similar to AWS in some regards, is that you're very good at engaging with the developer community. Microsoft do that with GitHub and all that.
Right.
What about engaging with C-suite level executives who are under massive pressure to prove an AI story that is worthy of their involvement in the company? I mean, some of them are, when it's not sort of the how and the why as well, it's the, what are we going to do? When do we do it? And what's the ROI here? How does Google start to engage at the C-suite level across the big enterprises to really make this happen?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of that for years. Our office of the CTO, our Octo team, there's been some stuff written about this quietly for years. That's a quiet team externally, but an absolute powerhouse for a lot of our customers. These are people who've often been CEOs and executives elsewhere, part of this sort of absolute expert team who often stays co-located with a customer for months and years, even just to kind of help them with big decisions and working with their C-suite. Same with a lot of our executive team, who's very hands-on. I mean, to be honest with you, I think Thomas Curran uses our products more than most of our engineering managers. He's all the time using products, but understanding the market, what do customers need, talking to them. So we have a very hands-on leadership team who doesn't just need the talking points, but they want to sit with a CEO, a board. The number of board conversations that we get brought into now is exciting, but that's because there's a credibility, hopefully a humility, of course, but a credibility like, hey, we're seeing a lot here. We're at the absolute forefront of the actual innovation, but we're also seeing what's working and what's not for ourselves, for people in your industry. You see us at the retail event this week. You see us across other public sector opportunities. It's hard to find an industry at the moment that's not pushing hard here. And so you see both our executive team, our office of the CTO team, number of others. I somehow get suckered into executive conversations a fair bit, because many of them are figuring out, how do I actually unlock this? How do I not just buy a contract, but how do I unlock consumption and transformation? Because I see vendors promising 50% productivity improvements, and I'm picking up maybe 3%. What's going on? A lot of these are those type of conversations right now, that they have been overpromised what's possible with AI, because it was not lying or anything, but it was very targeted. Like, hey, you're 50% better at a task you do for 5 minutes a day. What does it mean to be better using AI for 8 hours a day? I don't think there's many companies that can talk about that besides us, because we can talk about when you start in the morning until you finish your workday, there's a set of things that come together to help you do your job. A lot of them Google-based. Let's talk about where you get benefits. That's what a lot of these executives want to talk about, is not just how do I buy the thing? what does this look like for real?
Absolutely. Yeah, it doesn't surprise. I can see the hyperscalers doing a lot of organic recruiting, increasing this year so you can engage more at this level. It's fascinating to see. Well, it's been great getting a window into Google Cloud and hearing a bit more from you, what's going on, and talking across the business.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is I don't know, you and I I don't think Gen Z or Gen Alpha here. We've been around this a little while, but at the same time, this is the most exciting time in tech I've ever been around. It's a plenty good mix of chaos, but also an innovation and an opportunity. I think most people who probably listen to this with you are sitting here wondering, is this a career moment where I'm going to look back on it and wonder if I made the choices that were actually courageous and interesting and exciting? I hope that your listeners are. I hope a lot of people in this industry find the confidence this year to do the thing they know they need to do, which is probably push. Because sometimes these are once in a career moments to change how you work and what you do. Who wants to blow that?
Yeah, like that. Well, hey, I feel like a Gen Z. Hey, I run an information business and compete with some businesses many, many times bigger than my firm. This has never been a more fun time because when you're so personally involved in the change and the technology and you're using it to transform your own business, it's so much fun working across clients because they see the enthusiasm and excitement that we get from this. And you're thinking, look, embrace this. You build a safe space for your team to experiment and be unafraid to try new things and build relationships with technology that you've never had before. This stuff is dynamite. And this is just going to make a lot of us more successful in time. And we'll figure a lot of the kinks out. There's a lot of scary issues. I think it's becoming a political issue in some regards. But ultimately, we probably wouldn't even call this AI in another year. It's going to be something else. It's just technology.
No, but the attitude, as you say, one of my colleagues, Logan Kilpatrick, had just tweeted the other day, like, my competitive advantage is I'm having fun. I think that's true. Like, are you coming into this from an optimistic standpoint of we're trying to do the best work of our life right now, and I'm having fun doing it? I think that stuff's pretty intoxicating, and a lot of reason, honestly, people are coming to Google because we're just having a good time over it.
That's the main thing. I mean, as long as you enjoy this, and hey, look, we've been in this industry a long time, and for it to be as exciting as it is now, and I remember back to days maybe 10 years ago, it was getting a bit boring. It was like the same old trudge, and it was like everyone I knew in the software business, all they wanted to do was make as much money as they could and retire. Now I work with people who generally love this stuff. They're passionate, and there's a different mindset with a lot of people now. It's sort of, we're all in this together and we're learning together. It's an interesting, exciting time, and hopefully this year will be a great year for our industry. I really hope so. Terrific. Thank you, Richard.
Thanks for tuning in to From the Horse's Mouth, Intrepid Conversations with Phil Fersht. Remember to follow Phil on LinkedIn and subscribe and like on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favourite platform for no-nonsense takes on the intricate dance between technology, business, and ideological systems. Got something to add to the discussion? Let's have it. Drop us a line at fromthehorsesmouth@hfsresearch.com or connect with Phil on LinkedIn.